Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles. Donna and I have been married for 8 years. We graduated from college together and were wed within a year. We both had good jobs and we are putting as much money aside as we could for our first home. There are no children yet. I want them, but Donna just cannot get interested in being a mother in any sense of the word. That seemed to be the only contention in our marriage. We had our first sex while we were in college, and we were always open to trying new things. By new things, I mean within limits, nothing kinky or perverted. Our sex life was active and fairly constant, up to about 4 months ago. What brought us together in college was bird watching. We both enjoyed being out in the open, looking for the elusive species that we hadn't seen yet. We met at an organized birding hike and found out that we enjoyed each other's company. It was nice having someone to go on outings with, and it was great that we both liked the same thing. Our first sex was in the woods, and it turned out that that was Donna's favorite place to participate in carnal pleasures. She was an LL Bean or Land's End type of girl. Never wore fancy undergarments, preferring Hanes ways to Victoria's Secret. I thought she looked sexy. She had brown hair, shoulder length, and had a dark, Mediterranean complexion. She has a perfectly round shape. I had a feeling that one of the reasons she was not anxious to have children was because she was afraid of losing her beauty. Another of the things I liked about Donna was that she had a lot of thick, dark hair. She was hesitant about shaving the excess hair on her body because she was afraid it would grow back thicker. That was fine with me because I thought it added to her charm. I loved the women deeply. I had been engrossed in my work for a while, and I guess I was putting in too much overtime. Donna was getting home from her work a lot earlier than I was. She would change clothes and go to one of our favorite birding spots till the setting sun made it too dark to see. She always kept a log of the birds that she saw. Usually, there was nothing interesting or unusual, but she felt it was important to keep good notes. She was almost obsessive about it. I got home after dark and usually fell asleep on the couch while we watched TV. I was just working too hard and was not being a good companion or husband. After a few days without sex, I would expect her to get frisky. This wasn't happening. She seemed to be relieved that I was not trying to have any type of physical contact. That was when I started to worry. I never played team sports when I was growing up. My parents tried to get me interested in all sorts of activities with other kids my age. The problem was I had a bad temper. I would fly off the handle at the slightest provocation and would attack any kid who pissed me off. By the time I finished high school, I had learned to keep it under control. My wife didn't know about the problem. It seemed like she never did anything to push me over the edge. I guess that is why I was attracted to her. My parents never said anything to her about it. I rearranged my workload and schedule so that I would have more time to spend with Donna. I explained to my boss that I had overextended myself, and he completely understood. Now I had to try and make things right with my wife. I had no reason to suspect her of being unfaithful, but I did feel that she was unhappy with the amount of attention I was showing her. Donna, are we overdue a vacation? No, I don't think so. I guess we could squeeze in a short one if you can find a time. Well, I was thinking a week or two, someplace quiet and romantic. I feel that we haven't been spending any time together lately. Maybe a 3-day weekend, Brian, but I don't think either one of us wants to be away from work any longer than that. I think it is important that we stick to the plan to get the down payment for the house. Your long hours and overtime have helped to build up the pot, and I would hate to see us backslide. Donna, the house is important, but I feel that we haven't been spending enough time together. When I get home from work, I am too tired to be good company, and we spend the weekends doing house chores and shopping. Darling, I think you are making a big deal out of nothing. I will be more than happy to take a short trip to someplace close, but I'm just not up to going on a full-out vacation. I don't feel ready for it. I guess I'm just worrying too much. I want to make sure that I am doing everything I can to keep you happy. I am happy, Brian. I will let you know if things start going downhill so we can nip it in the bud. We have enough real problems without making up imaginary ones. I hope you are right. I don't want you getting a wandering eye. She flashed me a little twinkle when I said that. Well, that was my big attempt at making my marriage better. I did a lousy job. I guess I wasn't any better at fixing things than I was at figuring out that things were wrong. I didn't mention anything about my new work hours. I made a weak attempt at having sex that night, but she had a headache. Before going to bed, I checked Donna's birding log. It appeared that she was going out regularly, but her sightings were virtually non-existent. I have a small Honda 250 Rebel motorcycle that I love. It is quick, quiet, and easy to handle. It isn't obnoxious and clumsy like the big Harleys. It always starts and is trouble-free. That day I drove it to work. Donna usually got home about 4. Around the time I told Marge, my secretary, I would be down in the archives for the rest of the day. I asked her to call me on my cell when she was leaving for home. There are no landline phones in the basement, and no one usually works down there. I left work by the fire exit in the back of the building and put a small wedge in the door to keep it from locking. 5 minutes later, I was parked down the street from the house. The Rebel was easy to hide. My wife came home the regular time, changed clothes, and was off to her bird-watching site within 10 minutes. I pretty much knew where she was going, so I didn't follow too closely. 10 minutes later, her Volvo was parked at the Rainbow Mountain main trail parking area. A black BMW was sitting close by. We spent a lot of time at this park, so I knew the trails well. After parking the bike in some trees, I started up an alternate trail. I took my time and was careful not to make any noises. Years of birding gave me an edge in this area. Every few minutes I would stop and scan the area ahead with my binoculars. Toward the top of the mountain, it got a little rough. The trails were marked, but they were close to some dangerous overhangs. It was good for hawk watching, especially at this time of year. You could see for miles across the valley and everything was fine as long as you didn't look down. I couldn't help myself. I stopped for a moment and trained my glasses over the valley, looking for some early hawk arrivals. It was beautiful. That was when I heard the giggling. The woods were dense enough that it would be easy to hide if necessary. Of course, that also made it hard to see anyone if they were hiding. My attention was now directed toward the faint sound I heard. It was not constant, so that made it hard to pinpoint. Slowly I inched forward, making no noise at all and listening very carefully. A flash of yellow gave them away. It was the lining in her vest. I found a comfortable spot that allowed me a decent view and took out my spotter scope. The binoculars were handy, but the scope gave me a much better picture and had a camera attached. I was elevated from their location and was able to find a place where I could get a clear view. By lying prone, I could keep hidden and still be able to watch for a long time without getting fatigued. It was a very secluded spot, and they did not have to worry about anyone finding them by accident. My wife's companion was Clayton Mankey. He joined Donna's firm about 6 months ago. I met him at a few company functions. He was a pleasant enough guy, and I actually liked him. Of course, my feelings for him were changing rapidly. He had a nice wife, quiet but attractive in a mousy sort of way, and 2 young boys, grade school aged. I liked his boys and wished I had a couple just like them. Why would a guy with a perfect family like that want to mess with my wife? Clay spread out a blanket while I got comfortable. In no time at all, Donna had slid out of her jeans and panties. They were out of good hearing range, but I could still make out some giggling and laughter. Donna had one of her legs propped up, giving me a good view. She was taunting him as she pulled her knees up to her chest, holding both legs right below the knees. They both started having sex. I got a couple of good pictures while he continued to please her. At some point, I noticed that there was nothing romantic or loving about what they were doing. It was sort of like watching 2 dogs screw. At this point, I realized that I was not getting excited about watching these 2 people screw, but I was starting to get mad. The initial shock of what was going on had worn off, and now the anger was growing. I guess I should have just rushed down there and let my temper correct the situation, but I forced myself to endure it. I had no plan and was going to have to play it by ear. It didn't take him long to finish up, and after laying on the blanket for a few minutes, my loving wife gave her coworker a bee job. There was a little more giggling, and they started to get dressed. The whole tryst took way less than an hour. Donna gave him a little kiss, not like a lover but like a husband. He was getting the blanket together as she started to walk away. It appeared that they felt it was better if they came and left separately. I was out of the way, and she did not notice me lying there. I quickly gathered my things together and walked down the path behind her, far enough so that she couldn't see me. I stopped by the Hawk Mountain overlook. It was a flat rock that stuck out over the valley below. The drop was at least 300 feet. A beautiful spot, but dangerous. I was standing there looking out with binoculars when Clayton came walking down the path. My blood was boiling when I saw him, but outside I was calm. What y'all looking at? It's a red-tailed hawk feeding her babies at the top of that pine tree. He glanced over that way but couldn't see anything. Of course, there was nothing there to see. That tree right over there. The one full of pine cones. I still can't make it out. He moved a little closer to the edge and leaned over. Then he looked back at me. Don't I know you from someplace? Yes, we met before. I'm Brian Powers, Donna's husband. His eyes went wide open. The last thing he said was, "Oh shit," as I gently pushed him over the edge. Everything went in slow motion for the next few moments. It seemed like it took forever for him to reach the bottom, when in fact it was probably about 4 or 5 seconds. As I looked over the edge, my cell phone rang. Clay was lying face down and his leg was up under his body in an unnatural position. I studied him for a minute, fascinated, as I answered the phone. Marge, what is going on? I'm going to leave now. Are you going to be down there all day? No, I'm finishing up now. I should be back upstairs in about 10 minutes. Okay. I left 2 letters on your desk that need to be signed. I have to mail them out first thing in the morning. No problem. Thanks, Marge. I'll see you tomorrow. It took me longer than 10 minutes to get back to the office, but it didn't matter since Marge was gone anyhow. I signed the letter she left. Before going home, I changed from my hiking shoes to a pair of Oxfords. The boots went into a dumpster a few blocks from work. Donna was surprised to see me home so early. They didn't find Clayton's body until the next afternoon. It was on the evening news and Donna was broken up by it. He didn't come into work today. Everyone was wondering if he was sick, but his wife said he didn't come home yesterday. What the hell was he doing up on Rainbow Mountain? He wasn't into bird watching or anything like that, was he? Donna stammered a little. No, I don't think so. Did you go up there yesterday after you got off work? She hesitated. No, not yesterday. I had some laundry I wanted to catch up on. I wonder if anybody saw anything. There aren't too many people there during the week. Oh well, I guess I better get the black suit out of mothballs. Donna gave me a quick glare. She appeared to be upset because I was being a little flippant about Clayton's demise. Sorry, honey, I know you guys work together, and I didn't mean to take his death lightly. That night I noticed her softly crying after we went to bed. I didn't say anything. 2 days later I got a visit at work. Hi, I'm Detective Felix Green. Do you have time to answer a few questions for me? No problem. What can I help you with? Mr. Powers, did you know Clayton Mankey? He works at the same place my wife does. We are not friends or anything, but we have met at a few social functions. Is this about his accident on Rainbow Mountain Tuesday? We are just trying to tie up some loose ends. That's fine, but I don't see how I could help you. I didn't even know the man that well. It appears that your wife was close friends with Mr. Mankey, and we are just trying to make sure that you are not upset with their relationship. What relationship? I don't have the slightest idea what the hell you were talking about. My wife worked with Clayton Mankey, and that was the extent of their relationship. I understand what you are inferring, and I don't like it. If you're going to make statements like that, I hope you have some facts to back them up. We talked to your wife this morning, Mr. Powers. She was with Clayton Mankey on Rainbow Mountain, Tuesday just before his accident. Not possible. I asked her yesterday, and she said she was at home doing laundry. I don't think she wants you to know about their relationship. Damn it. There you go again. I told you not to make accusations about my wife like that. It's not an accusation, Mr. Powers. Your wife told us this morning that she had been seeing Clayton Mankey for over 3 months. Seeing how? We didn't get into that, and if we had, I wouldn't feel comfortable discussing it with you. That is something you and your wife are going to have to work out. Are you trying to make a point here, or do you just want to piss me off? Relax, Mr. Powers. It is not our intention to upset you. We talked to your secretary, Marge Schumann, earlier, and she said you spent most of Tuesday afternoon in the basement going through archive files. Not most of the afternoon, only about 2 hours or less. I was in my office for the rest of the time. I left early, about 5:30 or 6. The guard downstairs said you signed out about 5:45. Sounds about right. I wasn't watching the time. I just wanted to get home to my wife. Your wife said you got home about 6. It only takes about 10 minutes to get there. Did she tell you I was there for the rest of the evening? Relax, Mr. Powers. Everything is fine. We are just checking a few loose ends to make sure nothing is overlooked. You really weren't aware of your wife and Clayton Mankey's relationship, were you? No, but I think it will be the main topic of discussion at the dining table tonight. Felix Green gave me his card, excused himself, and quietly left. I was fuming. I swear smoke was pouring out of my ears. Of course, I knew what Detective Green told me, but just hearing from another person was infuriating. I threw my stapler across the room just as Marge came in. Brian, I hope I didn't say anything wrong. I didn't want to get you in trouble, so I just answered their questions as honestly as I could. That's okay, Marge. It looks like there are some personal problems that my wife and I are going to have to work out. You might have to cover for me for the next few days. It looks like I'm going to be busy. Can do easy, boss. No problem. Now, I had no intention of working out my problems with Donna. All I wanted to do was figure out the best way to end the marriage. Luckily, there were no children, and we were in a rented house. I wanted kids in the worst way, but now I was glad that Donna had said no. It wasn't even 3 o'clock yet, but I put all my stuff away and walked out the door. Marge gave me a small nod of understanding as I left. There was $75,000 in change in our house account. I took out 63 and went down the street to the local GM dealer. 2 hours later, and $58,000 per, I drove out in a yellow Hummer. I decided I didn't want a new house after all. I needed the extra money to buy gas for the monster. Shortly after pulling into the driveway, Donna came out. What the hell is that? Like it? It's my new car. I decided I needed something a little sportier. Are you crazy? How the hell are we ever going to pay for something like that? No problem. I paid for it cash. With what? Where the hell did you get the money to buy a truck like that? Don't tell me you took it out of our house account. Well, I didn't see why a single guy needed a house, so I got the Hummer instead. We were gathering a crowd outside. As we walked into the house, Donna grabbed my arm. What do you mean by a single guy? I think you know the answer to that one, don't you? Why would I want to buy a house with you? Hell, why would I want to stay with you? Come on, Brian. You were talking like a crazy man. Calm down and make a little sense. Okay, sweetheart. Detective Green came to see me today and told me about your relationship with Clayton Mankey. You were with him on Rainbow Mountain yesterday. You told me you were home doing laundry. Care to explain that? I didn't want to upset you. Clayton and his wife were having problems, and since he was new in town, he didn't have anyone to talk with about it. I was just giving him a shoulder to cry on. What was wrong with going to Denny's or Starbucks? Why did you have to up to Rainbow Mountain? Clay was very emotional and he was afraid he would break down and cry. He didn't want to do that in public. I got up and poured myself a cup of coffee. Donna sat quietly waiting for my next move. It was like a little game. I was mad that she even decided to play it. That's all bullshit and you know it. I am hurt that you think so little of me that you try to pull something like this. You and Clayton have been lovers for over 3 months. You have cheated on me and he has cheated on his wife. I am tired of listening to you make up little girl stories. Either face up to it like a grown-up or keep your damn mouth shut. You don't know what the hell you were talking about. Just because you make something up doesn't mean it is true. There is nothing between Clayton Mankey and myself except friendship. If you can prove otherwise, go ahead. I was on a spot here. I had pictures, damn good ones. If I showed the pictures, I would have to admit that I was on Rainbow Mountain the day Clay died. I couldn't do that. I was trying to think on my feet, but it was hard because I was sweating with anger. My fists were clenched, and the blood vessels in my neck and forehead were popping. I have some very nice pictures, Donna. Would that be proof enough? Pictures of what? Pictures taken where? Pictures of the two of you having sex in a motel room, I said in desperation. Ah, that proves you were lying. We never had sex in a... Donna froze, realizing what she had just said. Her denial was also an admission. In her determination to prove me wrong, she slipped up. She never finished the sentence. Her eyes glared at me and her lower lip started to quiver in anger. She hated being beaten. You son of a witch. I'm not talking about this anymore, and you are not getting a divorce from me. You can go to sleep in your new truck because you won't be getting in my bed for a long, long time, if ever. Get your own supper and leave me alone. We are still going to the funeral together tomorrow, right? Kiss my bum. It was an unusual funeral because both Clayton and his wife, Emily, were not from the local area. I don't know why she decided to bury him here rather than in their hometown. The only thing I could think of was that she was upset by the circumstances surrounding his death and didn't want to explain it to their friends and family. Most of the people there were from the office where Donna and Clayton worked. At the end of the ceremony, the people were walking by the widow, offering condolences. As we approached, Emily sent the two boys to stand with a friend nearby. Donna held out her hand and Emily looked her in the eyes. You have a lot of nerve showing up here, you 304. You ruined my marriage, destroyed my family, and you have the gall to come here to rub it in. If I ever see you again, I will tear you to pieces. That is a promise. Donna just looked at her with her mouth open. She didn't know what to say or do. She started to say something but changed her mind and just turned and walked back to the car. Several people nearby heard the whole thing. I looked at Emily Mankey as she watched my wife walking away. There was hate in her eyes. I'm sorry if she did anything to offend you. I'm sure it wasn't intentional. Oh, grow up. She cheated on you, and you defend her. What kind of a wimp are you? Go comfort your 304 wife. You were just irritating me, and I don't need that now. I gave her a small nod and walked back to the car. Donna said nothing on the drive home, but when we got to the house, she unloaded on me. You son of a witch. Why did you insist that I go to that damn funeral just so I could be made a fool of? Sorry, but there were a lot of people there from your work. Why would she choose you to attack? Blow it out your bum, you smart-mouthed scumsucker. She stormed into the house, and I didn't hear a word from her the rest of the day. I slept in the spare bedroom from then on. I didn't want to have sex with her anyhow, so when she made the decision, I was relieved. About noon the next day, I drove over to Emily Mankey's house. I had no idea what I was going to say but felt obligated. She was in the garage with the boys sorting through some boxes. Sorry to bother you, but I wanted to apologize for anything I might have done to upset you yesterday. She just looked at me and kept working. Finally, she turned. Look, I have a lot on my plate right now. I have to clean up the mess my husband left and then find some way to get on with my life. I just don't have time to listen to any whining right now. Is there anything I can do to help? You're not serious? Yes. I have the time and wouldn't mind lending a hand. Okay. Grab a handful of those trash bags and follow me. We went into the house and upstairs to the master bedroom. That is Clay's closet, and this is his dresser. Take everything out of them and put it in the bags. When you are done, you can take them to Goodwill. Can you handle that? Sure. Can the boys help? Josh and Terry. This is Mr. Powers helping put Daddy's stuff in the bags so we can get rid of it. Okay. The boys both shook my hand. Josh was about 8 and Terry looked to be 6. They were two great-looking kids that I would have given anything to have. It took less than an hour and the boys and I were hauling the bags of clothes and shoes down to the Hummer. I ran the load downtown and then came back to the house. Now what? That's okay, Mr. Powers. You don't have to do anything else. You do not have to feel obligated just because of what your wife did. Do you know exactly what they did, or is it all conjecture? Little bit of both, but I don't want to talk about it in front of the boys. Could we discuss it later? Come over tomorrow. I have to clear out the basement and the garage. If you don't mind working while we talk? The boys have a play date with some school buddies. That sounds good, but I'll miss the guys not being here. As I drove away, I felt a little better about things. I was sorry for killing Emily's husband, but I think he deserved it. I think Emily felt that way too. I didn't have any idea what I was going to do about Donna. I don't know why she was resisting the divorce. My wife was making chili when I got home. I figured I would try and get her to open up a little before we sat down to eat. Donna, in light of what has happened the last few days, do you think it would be better if we considered a separation? No, not really. I think it is pretty apparent now that you and Clayton were having an affair. I assume you were not happy with our arrangement. Do you want to try and explain it to me? There is not much to say, Brian. After spending some time with Clay, both at work and at other times, I realized that your idea of our future together did not match up with what I was looking for. You envisioned me as a domestic goddess popping out babies right and left, and I wanted something more. I was always hesitant to discuss it with you because I never wanted to say or do anything that would make you unhappy. Brian was having the same problem with Emily. She wanted what you wanted, and I wanted what Brian wanted. We ended up consoling each other, and sex came next. He wasn't better than you, just different. Wouldn't a divorce seem appropriate now, in light of what you told me? No way. I have no intention of giving up my home and all the comforts of marriage just because we disagreed. I intend to stay here. You can't throw me out because I haven't done anything to justify it. I don't think you will leave, so we will just have to get used to staying in the same house, together, and putting on the image of being a married couple. I'm not ready to call it quits yet. For heaven's sake, why not? I don't want to talk about it anymore. Sit down and eat. There was no conversation during supper. The meal was unusually quiet. I doubt too long next because the chili seemed to be especially hot. About 2 hours later, I started to get stomach pains. I made several trips to the bathroom and finally started to throw up. I noticed there was some blood in the bowl. Donna, I'm feeling pretty bad. Can you run me over to the emergency clinic? Hell no. Desperate Housewives is just ready to come on. If you're having a bellyache, take a Tums. It's more than a bellyache, Donna. Come on. Please. Drive yourself. You are acting like a baby. I grabbed my keys and went to the car. My neighbor was putting out his trash, and he asked me what was wrong. I explained, and he drove me to the hospital emergency room. The next thing I remember was waking up and looking at the sun coming through a window. I turned to look to the other side, and there sat Detective Green reading a magazine. Good afternoon, Mr. Powers. I thought you were going to sleep all day. What the hell are you doing here? What happened, and what time is it? Hey, guy. I'm the one who asked the questions. Take it easy, and everything will come to you. Okay. Sorry if I got a little anxious. Understandable, under the circumstances. Brian, it seems like you got a hold of a little bad chili last night. Luckily your neighbor got you here in time. They had to pump you out and give you a lot of fancy medicine that I can't pronounce. I think you ended up with a high and a low enema, or something like that. What the hell was it? They told me the fancy name, but basically, it was rat poison. That bitch. What did she say? Well, she gave us the leftover chili and it tested okay. She claims she has no idea where the poison could have come from. She ate the same food you did and she was fine. We looked around the house and the garage and couldn't find anything. So what are you going to do? Nothing at present. About the time the doctor came in with a nurse. He checked a bunch of stuff while the nurse took another blood sample. He said I could go home when I was ready and gave me a paper with some bland food listed on it. I borrowed Detective Green's cell and called Emily to apologize for not showing up to help her. Felix took his phone back. Why does your wife want to kill you, Mr. Powers? I don't know. Why did she kill Clayton Mankey? Do you know that for a fact? No, I don't. But she was on Rainbow Mountain, and she was the last person to see him alive. Come on, Brian. I'll give you a ride home. Donna was all gushy when we got home and apologized over and over about not being more responsive to my problem. I wanted the spare room and closed the door. I didn't eat any more meals at home after that. The next day, I told Marge I would be out on a sick day and asked her to try and find an apartment for me. Somehow she had found out what happened. I waited till after Donna left for work and then started to get some of my stuff together so I could move out quickly if necessary. I was a little upset that the police were not able to do anything about the poisoning. After a quick breakfast at the IHOP, I stopped by to see Emily. The boys were at school. Emily was more upset over what happened than Donna was. I promised her I would be back later after I did care of some personal business. Donna didn't want a divorce, but she did want me dead. That meant one of two things, revenge or money. I stopped to see my insurance man. I guess it was a stupid thing to do, but shortly after we were married, I took out a $1 million life insurance policy with Donna the beneficiary. The payments were high, but the cash value was now over $16,000. I cashed it in. Then I canceled the collision and comprehensive coverage on Donna's Volvo. I went by work and canceled the medical and dental coverage that I had on Donna through the company. The medical insurance would still be in effect for 90 days, but the dental stopped at the end of the month. I changed the beneficiary on my company insurance policies to my mother. Marge was glad to see me and offered any help she could. The bank manager told me that Donna had already cleaned out the rest of the house fund, about $12,000. I explained the situation to him, and he agreed to set everything up so that he could close out the credit cards and checking as soon as I notified him. I started up a new account and signed a bunch of papers for him. I swung by the house. Donna was there, wearing her birding clothes. We were pleasant to each other but not gushy. She said she was going up to Rainbow Mountain to do a little bird watching and relax. It felt like I was being set up, but I decided to play along. Shortly after she left, I was on my way, riding the Rebel. Her car was parked on the upper lot along with a gray Ford Ranger. I quickly went around the mountain to the lower lot. Her mountain bike was chained to a tree by the side of the lot. I parked my Honda on the other side hidden by some bushes. I hated the uphill hike, but it only took a few minutes. Donna was standing behind a rock outcropping talking to a guy who was carrying a small shotgun. It was the kind of gun that had a pistol grip instead of a stock. As I watched, she gave him a photograph and a business-size envelope. He looked at the picture carefully and then opened the envelope and counted a large amount of money. They shook hands and Donna started to rapidly walk directly toward me. I quickly ducked behind a small ledge and waited silently till she passed. The man she was talking to hunkered down behind the rocks so he could watch the trail coming from the parking lot. He was waiting, and I was pretty certain what for. Donna had counted on me to follow her and assumed I would come from the lot where she parked the car. It was quicker going back down the hiking path than it was going up. When I got to the bottom, I saw that her bike was gone. I took the Honda and went up to the top lot. The Ford was unlocked. There was a jogging outfit on the front seat. I took the registration from the glove box, a pack of matches from the center console, and the jogging suit pants. I twisted the jogging pants as tight as I could and dipped them into the Honda's gas tank. After doing both ends, I shoved the pants into the truck gas tank, lit the end, and got out of there as fast as I could. Halfway down the mountain, I heard the explosion. I hope she gave him enough money to cover that. I probably broke a few traffic laws getting home, but I had to take some back roads so I wouldn't catch up to Donna. After parking the motorcycle behind the garage, I took out the lawn fertilizer spreader and started pushing it back and forth across the lawn. There was nothing in it, but she didn't know that. A few minutes later, my wife came down the street and saw me. There was a disappointed expression on her face. I didn't know what she was going to say to me, so I got her first. "Hey, where the hell is the Volvo? You leave in the car and come back on the bike. What is going on?" She stuttered and stammered a little without saying anything, and then her cell phone rang. She turned away while she answered it. I couldn't make out the conversation, but it appeared that the person on the other end was a little excited about something. "Brian, I left the Volvo up on the mountain and decided to get some exercise by riding the bike home. I know it sounds silly, but could you give me a lift back up to get the car?" "Darling, that doesn't make any sense at all. Come on, I'll run you up there." She didn't say anything on the drive to get her car. She was playing with her fingers on her lap a lot. She sure seemed worried about something. As we got close to the mountain road, we saw a bunch of fire trucks going to the top. We got about halfway up when a police officer stopped us. "I'm sorry, folks, but there has been an accident up on top of the mountain. A truck caught fire. We can't let anyone up there right now. My wife's car is parked up there. Can we walk up to get it?" "Hold on a minute." We sat without speaking, while he talked to someone on his phone. "Okay. You can walk up to the top and an officer will help to guide you past the fire trucks to bring it down." Donna looked at me as she got out of the Hummer. "You can go on home now. I'll be okay from here. Thanks for bringing me up." I just nodded to her. After she was out of sight, I started to follow her. It was easy, because of all the commotion. When she reached the top, the guy she was with on the trail walked over to her waving his arms. Of course, I couldn't hear anything, but it was evident that she was trying her best to calm him down. They argued for at least 10 minutes, and then he walked over to the fire chief and said something. As he and Donna got in the Volvo, I hurried back down to the Hummer. It would take a while for them to get turned around with all the fire trucks and hoses, but I still had to rush. As I pulled out, I saw the Volvo turning the corner. I went home but left right away on the Honda. I wanted to see Emily. I had to apologize for being late, and she insisted on knowing what had happened. She seemed interested, even though I softened the story up a bit. Josh and Terry were glad to see me and were more than eager to order pizza for supper. We spent a couple of hours getting things up from the basement for the yard sale. The boys worked hard and didn't complain at all. I wish they were mine. I had Emily drive me home about 9 and left the motorcycle at her place. Donna didn't get home until late. I didn't ask where she was. Early the next morning, while Donna was taking a shower, I removed the SIM chip from her cell phone. After she left for work, I called the banker and told him to close out the accounts in the credit cards. I went to the cell phone office and terminated her service after paying a $200 cancellation fee. At the end of the day, the landline phone would be cut off as well as the DSL and cable TV. I notified the landlord that I was moving out and told him he could keep the deposits because of the short notice. I mentioned that my wife might be staying and that he should contact her about a new rental agreement. The water and electricity would be turned off at the end of the week. It only took a few minutes to load my things in the Hummer, and I was on my way to the apartment that Marge had found. Marge left a note at the new place that Detective Green wanted me to call in. I went down to the station and found his office. Well, Mr. Powers, you're still alive. What is that supposed to mean? Felix Green laughed a little. He seemed to be enjoying my dilemma. Do you know a man named Bobby Terrell? I can honestly say I never met the man. I reached into my pocket and handed him the registration from the Ford. He looked at the form and said, "Very interesting," using a lousy Charlie Chan impression. We both laughed. Mr. Terrell and your wife have been having a lot of telephone conversations lately. She called him 6 times, and he called her 4 in the last week. Your wife also removed $12,000 from a savings account 3 days ago. Bobby Terrell is an ex-con who makes a living by killing people. We sort of keep an eye on him, and we were surprised when we noticed this connection. Is there any particular reason why your wife wants you dead, Mr. Powers? There was until yesterday morning when I canceled $1 million life insurance policy. Doesn't she know you canceled the policy? I don't think so. Bobby is good at what he does, and I am impressed at the way you handled it. I assume he has already been paid, but I don't know if you will still try and finish the contact, since he lost his truck. I just wanted to let you know that we have talked to him. I told him if anything at all happens to you in the near future, I will immediately pick him up. He did not appreciate the attention. We also recommended that he take a vacation for a while. I am not sure that this will discourage your wife, though. I've moved out of the house. I don't know what else I can do. Felix leaned back in his chair. I think there is still something that you are not telling me, Brian. All the pieces don't fit together. Just watch your back. I went straight to see Emily. She agreed to go for lunch, and I was glad she liked sushi. I tried to explain to her what was going on, but I was being a little too cryptic. There was so much I wanted to tell her but couldn't. She gave me a few quizzical looks at times, and instead of explaining, I would change the subject. It was a long lunch. She didn't have any trouble talking me into coming over for supper that night. I apologized to her for talking gibberish, and she just laughed it off. I felt comfortable with her. The next morning I decided I was ready to get back to work. I had a good time the night before with Josh and Terry. Emily and I planned a big weekend together, and I was looking forward to it. Funny, but I didn't miss Donna at all. In fact, I was relieved that I didn't have to face her anymore. It was only a short drive to work, and I had a big grin on my face as I pulled out in the Hummer. Things were going well. The big monster picked up speed nicely, but as I started down the first hill, I noticed something strange. The brakes were not responding at all. I have seen movies where this happened, and I always thought how stupid the drivers were because they couldn't stop the car. I reached up to turn the key off but couldn't because it was in gear. You have to be in park to turn the key off. The Hummer was going faster. I calmly grabbed the shift level and pulled it from drive to low. That caused a lurch and a shudder, but it still kept picking up speed. I was approaching traffic and a lot of cross streets. I was going a lot faster now. There was a cemetery on the left side with a grassy bank going up, off the street. I steered for the bank and yanked on the handbrake at the same time. The Hummer did a 180, and as soon as it hit the bank, it flipped over. Everything went black. There was no pain. For the second time in a month, I was waking up in hospital row. I heard myself moan and sensed some commotion around me. Instantly, a nurse was looking into my eyes, and then there was a lot more commotion in the row. There was now pain, a lot of it. I was glad I was getting attention, but, at the same time, I wanted everybody to leave me alone. What a confusing mess. At last, it appeared that someone of stature had arrived, a qualified doctor I was guessing. I struggled to open my eyes and look around the row. There was a flurry of white coats, but down at the end of the bed was Emily. I felt better. There was a lot of adjusting and checking, and all of a sudden, I was sleepy as hell. The next time I woke up, everything was quiet. I tried not to make any noises because I wanted to avoid the commotion. I slowly opened my eyes and peeped out. It was nighttime and things were relatively calm. The room was empty except for Emily, asleep in a chair at the side of the bed. Everything in my body hurt. I turned my head toward Emily. "Hey, are you awake?" She looked up and smiled. "No, I am fast asleep and dreaming. Thanks for being here." "No problem." I closed my eyes and went back to sleep. When morning came, I woke up normal but still hurting. There was a full medical team in the room, but no Emily. I had not expected to see her at all. The doctors were full of questions. Does this hurt? Does that hurt? Can you see this? I answered all their questions, but no one was there to answer questions for me. I asked about Donna. She showed up at the hospital to sign the admission forms, but no one had seen her since. I was in the hospital 2 days before I woke up. Emily was there every day. Felix Green checked on my status daily. I had a concussion, broken collarbone, broken left arm, and 3 broken ribs. There were various internal injuries, but nothing life was threatening. Their biggest concern was that I was unconscious for 2 days. I was hungry as hell and finally got somebody to bring me some soup. I was able to feed myself and drink a little ginger ale. My throat felt like raw meat. Felix showed up a little later. I thought you were watching my back. Sorry, we didn't see that one coming. Do you have any idea what happened? Well, someone cut all the brake lines on the Hummer and then disconnected the airbags, front and side. You went through the windshield, and the seatbelt broke 3 of your ribs while you were leaving. The good thing is nothing caught on fire. The bad thing is that the Hummer is totaled. Hell, I didn't like it anyhow. I just bought it to spite Donna. Speaking of your wife, do you know where she is? I haven't seen her since the day before the accident. They said she signed the admission forms here at the hospital. How did she know to do that? I went to the house and got her. I tried to call her, but she didn't have any phone service. She wasn't too happy about that. After signing all the papers, a uniformed officer took her home. I asked her if she wanted to see you, and she said it wasn't necessary. Well, it looks like you saw her since I did. Did she leave town? We went to the house and looked around. Her purse was there with a lot of money, almost $8,000. She left her driver's license, credit cards, and all her personal stuff. I don't think that she would leave town empty-handed. We just think she is missing. Any idea how the Hummer got screwed up? We have no idea. Bobby Terrell? No. Believe it or not, Bobby Terrell was in a hospital in Philadelphia. It seems that a couple of goons snatched him and took him to Philly. They explained to him that they did not want anything to happen to you. Who do you know in Philadelphia, Brian? Damn. Felix, I don't know anybody in Philadelphia, honest. I have no idea who you were talking about. I believe you. Look, I got to run. If you need anything, let me know. How about a guard on the door? We both laughed a little. As Felix left, Emily came in. Hi. The doctor said that you could leave tomorrow as long as you have a place to go. I told him you would be going to my place. One of the nurses gave me instruction sheets, so I know how to take care of you. I'll be able to change your bandages and stuff. A visiting nurse will come by once a day to see how things are going, and the doctor will see you in a week. Okay. Sounds good to me. Who's going to give me my sponge baths? You or the visiting nurse? Your choice, I guess. At least both of my legs worked. I could go to the bathroom by myself, and I could sit up and eat at the table like a regular person. The pain medication made me sick, so I tried to wean myself off it as soon as possible. Emily and the boys were a joy. I enjoyed my recovery. We didn't go outside the first week, and then I had her drive by the old house. The landlord was there, and he was anxious to talk. He had not heard from Donna and wanted to know what to do about renting the house. Our things and her things were still there. He needed to have them removed so he could rent it. We made arrangements that were satisfactory to both of us. Marge came to see me at Emily's house. She had been to the hospital daily and got to know Emily pretty well. They seemed to hit it off. I was getting ready to go back to work, but I was going to be staying with Emily and the boys for a while longer. I healed up pretty well. I remained living with Emily and the boys. After about 3 months, the relationship changed from platonic to romantic. I moved into the master bedroom with little fanfare. Josh and Terry seemed to think it was natural. We were going out together and attending social functions. I even started going to the PTA meetings. The only problem was we were not married. I was still married to Donna. I checked with Felix regularly and he never had any news. Finally, I decided to petition the court to have her declared legally dead, so I could marry Emily. I took her to a small, romantic Italian restaurant. After a nice bottle of wine and a great meal, I was ready. Emily, I realize it has not been very long for either of us, but I seriously believe I would like to spend the rest of my life with you. Would you consider getting married? Is that a hypothetical question? Or are you proposing? I am proposing. Will you marry me? Yes. But we have one small problem. What is that? You have to meet my family in Philadelphia. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.